Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne. 3 years ago I told you that I finished designing this character, and 3 years ago I was wrong. So in the process of finally actually getting started on making pages for this comic, I realized there was so much left for me to still do, so I'm going to take you guys deep behind the scenes of how I make a character design for a professional project, what that actually involves, and how that's different from the way that I do character designs for, say, a YouTube video. Since I've been working on this character for years and years, in order to keep everything organized, I'm going to be using Milanote. They are the wonderful sponsor of this video, but I also just use Milanote for this project. I'm going to show you guys all of the ways that I have used it to organize things, and I'm going to be placing the finalized art into this board as well so that I can easily access it and check it. So for this video, one of the main things I'm concerned with is actually finalizing all of her costumes. I made a whole to-do list just for this, and I'm going to check it off as we go along. So you can see we have things like old imagery of how she used to be colored. This is her old color palette. I just made a little comment about that. I have a color palette here that I directly sampled off of my image here. These little color chips are super useful because you can just literally use the eyedropper tool. Like, you just drag it in, an eyedropper. Like, if this was actually still her color palette, I could just get the hex code, like her eye color. Now, this isn't her eye color anymore, but this is what I did over here so that I have her color palette. I also have some subboards in here, for example, the ear and antler references. Now this is really critical because I didn't really draw a lot of animal stuff in my last comic, and so I want to make sure that I'm staying kind of accurate. I have some links dragged in here from Wikipedia about antlers and also dogwood trees, which is one of the big inspirations for her antler flowers. I grew up around dogwoods, so that's part of the reason why. I also grew up with a cherry tree in the backyard, so I think both of these are inspiring me. This is one of the things that I appreciate most about Milanote as a kind of resource for collecting references, because oh my gosh, this is so useful. Being able to put GIFs in here that just play is so helpful when I think about like the movement of things. And I also made, you know, this little comment. You can actually use the arrow to point to like whatever, and it will keep it pointing at it. You see what I mean? Isn't that cool? I just love this. This is so helpful. I also made this little sketch here. You can sketch directly into the board. Yeah, you can see it's so useful, but I wanted to save this little note because I was noticing this scoop shape in my reference images of antlers, whereas branches seem to be more sharp. So I definitely wanted to keep in mind those differences while I'm designing her antlers. I also have this subboard of the forest. It's just reminding me of where this character lives. She's highly influenced by the forest that she lives in. Again, I'm taking some color samples here, and I just have a whole bunch of reference images of stuff that inspires me or is similar to what I've pictured. This is actually a bit of concept art from Samurai Jack, so that's more for like stylization. I also have the Milanote web clipper, which is just a browser extension. It's really easy to use, but once you have it turned on, you can literally like save whatever you want. So like if I wanted to save this image, I have it here. I can save it to wherever I want. Let's put it in the forest, save it. And then when we go back, let's go to the forest. We'll see that there's an unsorted image here. It also has the source, which is really useful. Then I can just drag it in wherever I want. You know, everything I really need to know about the character is right here, and that's super helpful. For her outfits, I actually collected up some fabric references, and I have them separated into these columns. These are really useful if you're trying to keep things organized. So you see I've brought in a bunch of different references from this guy from the Green Knight versus American Girl doll. It's all about the cloak I'm going to draw her with. Her veterinarian fit has actual like reference images of suture needles. I don't just have reference images, you can see I also have like notes to myself to remind myself of what I'm thinking. Anytime I get an idea and I want to make another board, I can just drag them in, and once I go in here, there's a bunch of different templates you can use. They're very useful because it kind of shows you how you can use this for different things. I really like the project plan and the mood board. The mood board is very image focused and it gives you some good ideas of how to use it. And then once you actually say you want to use the template, all of the images are gone, everything's set to just basics. I really love Milanote. I was actually using it for this project before they offered to sponsor me again, so you know that I'm a legit fan. You can sign up for Milanote now for free with no time limit. Check out my link in the description, and thank you so much to Milanote for supporting the channel. So first up, I had to make this base doll that I'm going to build all the outfits off of. I'm going to use the front, back, and side view type of reference structure. A lot of people like having both sides, which makes sense, especially if your characters have like any sort of asymmetry in their design. I'm not going to do that on this one. I actually don't think it's necessary, but I think that both versions are very good, and so I recommend you kind of trying both if you're not sure which one works better for you. One of my favorite little tricks for doing these types of lineups is taking the front view of the character, flipping it horizontally, and then sort of just like removing all of the detail from the inner portion of that flipped sketch, and then you have a great starting point for how you draw the back of the character, and it's going to be exactly accurate to the front image that you did. Now there's no such easy path for the side view, but once you have the front and back next to each other, drawing the side view in between the two is not too hard. Just make sure to keep checking things like the level of the knees, the hips, the top of the head, that sort of thing. And again, it doesn't have to actually be perfect, like it's not like you're making an animation. When it comes to comic reference, you can be close enough, whereas with animation it's a lot more strict. Things can really bubble and pop if they're not very perfect. So that's another thing to keep in mind. There's also some cheating out that I'm doing. Like if I was actually making a perfectly accurate side view, then her little deer ears would be pointing directly at the camera or the viewer, but I've already decided that with this character in general, I'm going to have her ear tuck back when we're seeing her from the side. Even though this isn't 100% like accurate in 3D rendering, it doesn't actually have to be. This is just one of those things that I'm going to fudge in general unless there's a reason for me not to, because I think it looks better and it sort of guides the viewer's eye back to her face. Initially, I was going to leave the doll flat without any shading, but I decided to shade it for a couple different reasons. First of all, yes, it does just look better, but secondly, shading helps you actually communicate form. And so while I don't feel like I need to do shading on the outfits that I'm going to design on top of her, and in fact don't want there to be any shading so that I have a really clear flat color reference for all the pieces of her outfit, when it comes to her body, I wanted it to be clear the shapes of like her belly or the divots in her back. Not having any shadow on her body made it a little less clear what's going on. So I think using the shading, particularly on like the side, helped me remind myself of what these shapes are and like where her hip is versus like her little belly. I made her face pretty simple in this little dress-up doll. I made her eyes kind of just like big amber dot eyes because I wanted her face not to distract too much from the outfits. This is not how her face will actually look, but I tried to make her body really accurate to the way that I'll be drawing it in the comic because obviously I want the proportions of the outfit to be accurate. So now that the base or the doll is done, we can start working on our first outfit. Now this one is going to be the one that looks the most familiar if you've ever seen me draw this character before. This is very similar to the outfit that I landed on in my video from 3 years ago, but I am making some critical changes, and some of those changes are in fact because I'm having to actually face drawing this character over and over and over again in my comic, and I need to simplify some things. So one of the things that I decided to do is not make this a button-up anymore, or at least not in a way that is visible. One of the things that you do have to remember is that sometimes there's information that may be true on the character that you don't necessarily have to draw, because obviously cartooning is shorthand, right? Everything about cartooning is simplifying and stylizing to the point where like the reader gets the gist of what you're saying without it being photorealistic. So there's some things that I'm just going to omit because honestly it just clutters up the design and it would make it way harder to draw her frequently. So I removed the buttons off the front of her shirt. I'm also changing her shoes. Originally she was supposed to be barefoot, and she had kind of these battered looking feet with bandages on them as like their only covering. I no longer feel like that is the move per se. So instead I've designed her these little slip-on shoes that look relatively soft and still like, you know, she could easily like grip onto wet rocks and stuff. It looks pretty flexible. It doesn't have any clear sole, but it's still better than just having bandages, though I still like the idea of the bandages around her ankles, and I feel like that's an element of her design I wanted to keep. It's also one of the things that looks kind of medical on her, so I wanted to maintain that. So here's where the side and back view are really critically important. I'd never drawn a back view of this outfit, so I didn't know what the back of her collar looked like, for example, and I am drawing the collar directly over her hair in some instances because this is all about her outfit, and if it interrupts her hair, that's not a big deal because we're going to have different references for her hair, and it doesn't have to be 100% accurate. I just need to know what that collar looks like when it comes to her outfit reference, so that's what we're doing there. I'm also cheating out the split of her shorts. It should be directly over the front of her knee, but I'm actually pushing it back a little bit in the side view so that you can still appreciate the design of these shorts. That's another thing that I've kind of decided to do here. And so here's the turnaround of her most basic outfit. Again, I've left the color completely flat. I'm not going to do any shading on this because the most important thing is that I can see the details that I've drawn here, as well as being able to eyedropper sample these if ever I should lose my color palettes, which I really hope I don't, but they are here just in case I ever do. Next, I thought that even though I have designed this simplified version of her adventurous outfit or her veterinary park ranger witch outfit, I wanted to make sure that I was simplifying it in a consistent way. In the comic, there will of course be times where I'm drawing her small enough in the panel or in maybe a comedic shot where I don't need to be drawing every single detail of her outfit. This is a common thing in manga or comics in general, and actually figuring out how I'm going to simplify it and what I'm going to take away in those shots is kind of important to me so that I don't feel confused or get stuck cluttering her up with too many accurate outfit details when I'm drawing her really small. So I just practiced a little bit, making some quick sketches of her sort of emoting in a more simplified form, and I mainly figured out how I'm going to be doing it. A lot of the time it involves just like removing her belt if it isn't super relevant and simplifying things like her hat. Her hat has two little sewing needles stabbed through and like a piercing on the rim. That's one of the things that I'll probably lose a lot of the time. I'll also get rid of a lot of detail on the shorts when it's not necessary, and turning her leg bandages into like just one little sock kind of looking thing will probably help a lot as well. Things like the slits in the sleeves I'll probably keep because they're easy to visually show with the darkness of the undershirt, but other things like, let's say, her little ribbon on the front, it might be a simplified kind of more symbol looking version where you can't see the ribbon going up into her flipped over collar. This was actually really helpful for me, and I'm glad I did this because I feel much more comfortable with her outfit now. I'm not too scared that it's too complicated because I know I can reduce detail where it makes sense and bring it back when it's relevant again. That's one of those things that's like important to remember and something I would never worry about with a character design like the ones I do in my YouTube videos a lot of the time. You don't have to worry because you're just drawing the character like once or twice. This is the type of thing that I would only do if it's going to be a professional project and I have to worry about these compromises. Next up, I'm drawing the cloak that she'll wear over top of this, and this cloak has changed a lot. Originally, like I said, this character was designed to be witchier and more scary looking in general. Now I have story elements that I have to include with this cloak, and it no longer makes sense for it just to look so Halloween-y. This is a cloak that she would wear if she is cold, like if she's going out at dawn or dusk, or in the cooler months. So the inner lining is actually a quilt that she finds, and she has just kind of turned it into a quilted lining of her cloak, which is going to change the texture of it a little, make it look a little cozier and sweeter and cuter. This would still cut an intimidating silhouette if you were seeing her from far away, but as you get closer you see at its core it's an adorable handmade like granny quilt, so this is something I was really happy with. As far as her character design, I feel like this is a good metaphor for this character in general, and I wanted to give it a nice little like hood. Now I have some references that I looked at for this. I really just wanted to keep in mind all the different ways that these types of quilts can be put together in patchwork, and I also looked at the cloak, the quilted cloak that the character from the Green Knight is wearing. I just thought the way that it was cut was really interesting, and I was tempted to have these like slits in the side so that she can stick her arms out without actually pulling back the cloak. I'm still not sure if maybe in the long run I might want to do that instead, but I feel like this version, this more classic cloak, where if she's sticking her arms out of it, it will actually pull back away from her body. It looks better to me, but I might end up having to change it. I'm not exactly sure. After I designed this, I just had to copy paste the other outfit and then just erase it away anywhere where the cloak should be covering it, so we can see how all of these look together. Next, I had to draw the outfit that she would wear when she's relaxing at home. She has a very active and stressful job, going out into the field and trying to perform emergency services to the monsters that live in the forest. So the dress I designed for her to wear at home is really two parts. It's this one part that's like a white linen-y kind of dress that she wears underneath it, and then she has various different colors of these pinafores that she wears over top. I want there to be a little sticking out of like some puffy shorts or bloomers underneath, and then I have these socks for her, but because I don't think she'd have access to elastic, I made sure that anywhere where elastic would likely be, like in her puff sleeves or at the top of her socks, there is instead a little cord that she ties into a bow. I think it looks so girly and adorable and cute. It really suits her, and it shows a different side of her versus her like kind of park ranger fit that she has in her normal day-to-day outfit. I wanted this pinafore over the top to look like a delicious pumpkin soup. A lot of the time when she's in this outfit, she's either making medicine, cooking herself some food, or resting and relaxing. So I wanted it to look comfortable, but also kind of not too modern. I also had a little reference to her job on her back. You can see this little slit that is on the back of the underdress that she's wearing, and there's two little stitches on the back that just kind of look like the stitches that she is sewing into all the monsters of the forest. It's very subtle, but it's the type of thing that I like to throw in my character designs, just to have like a little super subconscious hint. Since this design doesn't speak to her profession nearly as much, I wanted to have a little something. Next, I'm going to consider some alternate hairstyles for her. Her hair is going to be kept loose almost all of the time. However, I definitely think there are a possibility that there will be situations where she needs her hair to be a little bit more out of the way, or where she's too hot, or the job she's going to be doing is very messy. And for that, I wanted to have two different options for her to tie her hair up off her neck. I know for me, there's times where I just can't stand having my hair on my neck anymore, especially in the heat of the summer. So that's something I wanted her to have the option of as well. I think that these little like simplified donut braids, I don't know what else to call them, they look like little crullers. I think these are really, really adorable, and I think I can simplify drawing them to the point where they would make sense in a comic. And then these little ponytails are great because the little ribbons actually mirror the ribbons in some other parts of her design. I think this works well and would look super, super cute. Both of these would also work under her hat. I made sure to not put up anything around the crown of her head where her hat is, because then she can't wear it. And then I also thought when she's not wearing her hat, one thing I can add to make it a little more decorative and cute is this little like crown braid hair thing that you see on the side here. I wanted to just have a fancy option if she's feeling fancy. Who knows if I'll actually use any or all of these, but having them sort of thought about will make it much easier to grab them if I need them, and otherwise if not, it's just something that I know for myself. So I'm going to place all of these into my boards just to see them all together. I'm going to put the outfits into a column. I'm also going to put her little scar map, which I've also made. With things like scars on your character, it's actually really easy for them to move around on your character and you to misremember where you put them or their exact shape and dimension. So this is something I'm going to make sure to do on any of my characters who have scars or really specific like beauty marks. And I'm also going to put my other little references that I've built in this video alongside. I think they look so cute sort of displayed like this, and I really like being able to see them all together. I hope you guys enjoyed watching me do this character design work. I love showing you behind the scenes. Check out the sponsor Millinote through my link in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much to my wonderful patrons and members, including HoneyKitten18, Pink, Novel Goblin, West Art Channel, Loro, Data, Random World, Lily McFarlane, Artist James, Jamie C, Yume Lily, Skitten, Gold Pikachu, Among Us Skibidi, Aurora Morgan, Becca, Anastasia Evsiva, Kobe Octo VT, Viet, Graveyard Moss, Grexius, Maddie Momo, Brandon Stark, CB, Lucy Amajiki, Liv, Ravenscrow, Zocelot, T-Hill Music, Jabber Dabber Doo, Kadaria, Astral Fox Art, The Expressive Poker Face, Tsubaki, Cutie Pie, Ice Cream Pal, Cola, JJ Jade, and of course, blah 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 blah.